Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I am here with both Tyler Jones and Glenn Willis. I think they're ready to bury the hatchet and be friends again.
I didn't know there was a breakup.
There's not. Kevin's trying to
I'm
create
just
a fake,
creating strife. I'm just creating
yeah,
strife. That's my fault, my fault.
unnecessary.
But nice to have you both at the same time. And LaMelo got traded. How
He
crazy is
did.
that?
I was surprised at how much the Timberwolves gave up for him, and they now have basically Rudy and a bunch of guards. Jaden McDaniels was a forward, but so it's going to be interesting to see what they do in free agency. They don't have a ton of cap space left. Um, so I don't know how they're going to build the rest of that roster, but I mean, they're going to play pretty small. Rudy aside, but I can't believe they gave up that much draft capital to get him. That just blows my mind.
I think it shows they're desperate, right? I think the that's my bigger takeaway is that clearly the Timberwolves were desperate to appease Ant. He's been, barking through the back channels that he's not happy with the direction the Timberwolves are going. I think in large part because, the creation load, he just it's just not a good role for him. And I do think like getting LaMelo Ball for what they gave up in terms of players, absolute absolute win for the next couple seasons. But to me, I'm like, this is a desperate team. They know they have to be better. We'll see if it pans out. I think that the overall like landscape of what the Timberwolves did is they moved the deck chairs on the Titanic a little bit, where instead of having size and defense, we're going to be more offensive focused and have Rudy Gobert be our backline only backline defender. But I think their ceiling is ultimately capped here. We saw with the Hornets, for as great as LaMelo was last year, and like I don't want to take away from the season LaMelo had. Like he was one of the best players in the sport last year. He should have been in all. I don't know if he made All NBA, but he should have been definitely in consideration for All NBA, considering the impact that he had on the game last year. But you saw when the going gets tough defensively, if he's not surrounded by good defensive talent, they're not getting stops. And we saw it against the Sixers in a must-win game where they could not get a stop, and like LaMelo was a liability there. Saw it against the Heat, when they almost lost against a weak Miami Heat basketball team. Even though they're the more talented team overall, it was still a drag-out dogfight because they couldn't get stops on the other end. And so this Timberwolves team now with like Edwards and Io DeSumo going with a three-guard lineup, and then Jaden McDaniels being there for, like that's a small team. Like it doesn't matter that Gobert's there. It's going to be a small team. Point of attack defense is going to be questionable outside of Jaden, because like if Jaden's guarding the point of attack, all right. So is Ant playing the four? Like where's the weak side rim protection? What's they're going to be limited what schemes they run. Like this is going to be a different Timberwolves team, and I think the overall impact for the team, considering they traded Randall, who's a flawed player, but he's been good for them. Like I think the overall impact is going to be relatively similar to what they have been the last couple of years, which is still a good team, but flawed and limited. But to me, I just think this reeks of desperation, where clearly the Timberwolves are like, we have to get more talent in the building, offensive talent in the building, so that Anthony Edwards is happy. I we'll see how this is going to play out for him.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I like sort of I think if you looked at the Spurs and the Thunder, like, and how they viewed the best versions of themselves, like they're going to play a lot of guard heavy lineups too with their one big center. And
True.
so now the Timberwolves are going to be able to kind of do that. And so it's not an incomparable match. Like I think it's going to make them very good, but not great. Like they're still going to be a tier below, but it it feels like a worthwhile gamble. But like Glenn said, like an overpay. Like you probably could have gotten him for less, maybe.
Hmm.
I don't
I
know.
don't think they gave up. I don't know.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
pick
just
package, it's a lot of swaps. Like to me, in terms, look, if LaMelo is only available because the Hornets don't trust him. If the Hornets trusted him, considering the on the court player that he is, he's not available to be traded.
Right.
Like he's just not. So
That's right.
I think to me, the Hornets like you got to make it worth our while here, and I think they did. I think the Hornets did okay, but like they're going to take a massive step back this next season. But I do think the Hornets on the Hornets side, I think they kind of just understood defensively. Lamelo, Con Canickel, Brandon Miller is never going to work. Like it's just
Yeah.
never going to work. We're not even going to waste our time here, and we're going to move off of the guy we're most comfortable giving away. I'll put it that way. Like
Yeah, no,
Con is
it doesn't.
locked
It
in.
doesn't. It's more. It's not so much that they gave up too much for LaMelo. I just think if you look at sort of recent trends in the NBA, where you give up sort of the defensively challenged superstars, LaMelo's not a small guard, but he kind of plays like a small guard. Like
He
that
does
player,
rebound.
that archetype has gotten undervalued in trades for a while now, and so compared to some
True,
of the others, it felt like a little bit more.
true, but Lamelo does rebound, and that does provide real value. So it's not. He's not like I don't know. Lamelo, I feel like is still underrated amongst people if we're purely talking about watching the game.
Sure.
But the defense, I think the defensive aspect of his game was more flawed based on the team he was around and less about
Yep.
him in
No.
particular. I think this is a better environment for him. I think LaMelo and Anthony Edwards is going to be magic. Those are guys who are going to bomb a lot of threes, elite shooting. Gobert is going to get a lot of dunks this upcoming season, but I mean their window is very short here. Like they don't have they're hoping that Joan their first round draft picks last season, Joan Berenger and like Rico Sikorsky, like they get something from them as backup centers, uh, which they might, but like that's a tough sell when you're relying on young centers uh, to give positive production. And again, they don't have that physical element of Julius Randle anymore. To me, I just think, to me, it just feels like to me, Tim Connolly is trying to make up for the fact that he traded for Rudy Gobert and overpaid so much to get him, and it fixed their quote unquote defensive issues, but like it's caused uh, every other decision that he's had to make the team worse as time goes on. Like they had to trade Karl Anthony Towns. Like that was devastating for them.
Yes.
Now they got to get LaMelo into the building so that they can have some spacing again for their team overall. Because you can't like Randall for all his strengths, shooting isn't that. So I just think Tim is having to make up for the fact that he spent his draft capital for a basketball player as limited as great as Rudy Gobert is, a future Hall of Famer, as he's too limited offensively, and he's constantly having to like reorient his sinking Titanic because like he sunk it, and like I think maybe part of it is Tim didn't realize how good Anthony Edwards was going to become. I think that's also like a massive like situation where Anthony Edwards flat out the best shooter in the NBA. Like he's the best shooter in the NBA and uh, a devastating downhill driver. He has the ability to be an MVP caliber player in the right situation, but I just don't think the Timberwolves have built the correct team around him, even though it should be easier considering his size and what he can do on and off the ball. So
Well, if the Timberwolves need a power forward, I know a team that has a bunch. We should probably talk about that team.
yeah,
Uh,
Well,
maybe we'll start with a player that neither of you gotten to talk about yet because it's so recent. And Glenn, let me ask you what you think about Henry Vasar.
I thought it was hilarious that all the reporting was that the Lakers had a promise to him, and Ozzy is like, "Nope, we're trading up. We're jumping the Lakers, and we're gonna go get him." So, he's more offensively kind of more offensive kind of value at this point in time. And I mean, I watched the press conference earlier. I thought all three guys, said the right things. Got to get stronger, all that sort of stuff, right? But he's a legit 7 feet. Zuby is a really physical guy that they got. They can play the 4 and the 5. We can talk about him too a little bit, but I think honestly was like there's a chance to go get a guy that a lot of people had him as a late first round grade. Like if you go look at all the mocks and the things that were out there, they had him like in that 22 to 30 range. And I don't know why he just kept sliding and sliding and sliding, but honestly was like, let's go do business here. So it'd be interesting what kind of contract he ends up on. Is he going to be in a two-way his first year? What does that look like? We'll have to see. But I like that they took basically two front court guys that they can develop. I think Zuby's already pretty far along in his development. He's with that pick. I think you could see that Ansi and Quinn are prioritizing switchability, all that sort of stuff on defense. So I thought they did well to kind of create more depth at that position. But now it's like, what do you do with Kaminga? What do you do with Moget? The rest of the position. I think Asa should play next year. I think Asa should be in the rotation next year. But they're really deep at the 4 and the 5 now, and they still might go sign a veteran center too. Like we don't know what they'll do what comes early July when the moratorium gets here. So I'm really eager to see what next week looks like.
Yeah, they should absolutely go get a veteran center.
Yes,
I think that they got a tremendous value with Vasar, but at the same time, he's at least a year away, like at a
sure.
minimum. Like
Yep.
there's like no chance he's ready for the NBA come October. Like he's not strong enough. He's got to do whatever he can to get quicker. It's just going to be a very different ball game for him, even from just a rules perspective, because he was the kind of player that just had to entirely ignore defensive 3 seconds rules. Like he was camped. Like it's going to be very, very different. So I fully expect. I don't know that he's going to be on a two-way contract. Like maybe that was one of the reasons he fell was because he's talking to teams and they want to do that, and he and his agent didn't want to do that. I don't know, but regardless, he's probably going to need to just play. Go on the ASA plan and get most of his work in College Park this season.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah. But I think but you want, I watched a couple North Carolina stretches of North Carolina games on YouTube, and to kind of just get a better feel for what he has. Like the offensive stuff is there, like he can shoot it, and things like that. So, but it is the agility on defense, the ability to can he get to the level and recover, all those things that Quinn wants to see his bigs do. So I think next year will be developmental. I don't maybe he'll be on a regular contract, maybe he won't. I don't know. But I agree with you that that needs to be a kind of a College Park kind of focus season for him next year.
I uh I talked to him a little bit like after the press conference, and he said that he worked out for 5 teams in the pre-draft process, and the Hawks were not one of them. Like he didn't work out for the Hawks, which I thought was interesting, just given how they, you know, made for at least for like second round purposes a very uh, you know, boldish move to go get him. It wasn't a passive thing where he fell to them entirely. They're like, nope, that's our guy. We're gonna go get him.
Yep. Yeah.
Tyler, what do you think?
It's good value. Uh, they saw, it's interesting. Because like Maxime Renault went through a similar slide last year. He's a better basketball player than Maxime is, though, and he's better defensively right now than Maxime was back then. So
Right?
I think he slid in large part because he had leverage over teams where he could be like, I'm not signing a two-way. And also, if you do draft me, I will just go play in Europe. So like I do think he was in a unique position where he could kind of leverage his uh his status. He might have been able to go back to college. I don't know what the rules are about that, but like I just think he just had a little bit more leverage over teams. That's why he slid all the way where he did. It would have been perfectly reasonable if the Hawks took him at 23. I wouldn't have liked it just because defensively, like he's just too weak right now. I think that's the bigger
Yep.
issue. Like
Yep.
we can talk about the quickness stuff, all that. Like that to me isn't as important as he has to be able to maintain his positioning on the defensive side of the floor. Because if you can't, you give up rebounding opportunities. And then if you're a center and when you're on the floor, if the team cannot rebound, it's it doesn't matter what you provide on offensive end. Like we're just not going to get stops because we're not going to end possession. So he's got to improve physically on like just get stronger so that he can hold his position, similar to how Jock Langdale was able to do uh, for the Hawks last year. If he wants to be a good player, because like, I think he has opportunity to be a really good player considering the offense. Like the offense is fantastic.
Yep.
Especially he provides an element the Hawks have not had since Capella, which is the ability to catch lobs above the rim. Like he's a very good athlete. So, and then he can basically do everything with the ball in his hands as a center, what you would want. He can shoot it. He can shoot. He can both shoot off the catch and he has a little pull up game. Like it's not he flashed that a little bit. Like he's very comfortable shooting the basketball. And he's got a nice post game. Can finish with either hand. Like he's kind of like offensively everything that you want. It's just defensively he's just not there yet. And to me, it's physically. And the reason why he didn't go in the first round is that he's 22 years old. He's 7 feet tall, but he's only 227 pounds at 22. Like that is a problem. Like he's going to have to figure out a way to add weight without losing his athleticism and his burst. And that's going to be harder to do now that you're a little older at that age. So, um,
He's
yeah.
kind of
So
like
like,
in a similar boat to like a Ryan Kalkbrenner, but he doesn't have the strength that Kalkbrenner has.
Yeah.
And that's important. Like you said, you give up rebounding opportunities, defensive rebounding opportunities if you can't hold your position. But the other thing is like you give up you give up help defense. Like you want to challenge shots at the rim as a help defender, you know, you've got to be able to just free yourself body wise first to even go be able to contest that. And he doesn't have the strength for that either. There were times where like just the initial player that he's guarding when he wants to go help and contest a shot, like he can't even get off of his original man because of like a strength issue. And so that's like that's gotta get, you just gotta get better at that. Like without that, it's just not gonna work. The whole point of having a 7 footer on the floor is that when somebody comes to the rim, they can contest a shot, and he would have trouble just like getting off of a body to go do that. So that's just step one is getting stronger, and he's young, he's low risk, and he said it himself today, like I got to get stronger. So everybody's on the same page with it, and it's a pretty I'm not gonna say easy goal, but it's easy to identify and not complicated to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, you appreciate that he addressed that directly. Like, I got to get stronger. I got to get in the weight room. He said that verbatim, today in the press availability. So you like to see guys take ownership and accountability of what they know they need to do to get to where they need to help the team.
Uh, I had Tyler on the other day, Glenn. So he's weighed in on Kingston and Zuby.
Yeah.
How did you feel watching those picks go down live?
Well, I mean, I've been hearing for a while that it seemed like Kingston was a guy they really hoped was there at 8, and I didn't know how likely that was. I think he's the best point guard in this class, personally. The athleticism, and then just, and honestly talked about like his competitiveness and his team mindedness, and he just seems like a real quality person on and off the court. And I know the Hawks value cultural fit and cultural, buy-in and all that sort of stuff. But even like the letter he wrote the day of the draft that got circulated on Players Tribune was just, I thought, just really, really well done. And it showed it conveyed a lot, I think, of his character, who he is, and what he's about. So even he said, I got to get stronger. The NBA bodies are bigger, and that sort of stuff. Now he has good burst and athleticism. He can attack middle without a screen. Like, he just has a lot of he already do. That's good. And I'm looking forward to watching him play in summer league and such. But for me, I thought like it. For me, like, but just based on what I was hearing, it was like if he's not there at 8, they might trade the pick. But if he's there, they're going to make he's going to be the pick. That's kind of basically what I've been hearing, kind of leading up to there. So I love it. I love his fit. He's not. I don't see him starting this year really, unless there's an injury to someone that would change the calculation, I think. But I think he brings like a great intangibles, great athleticism, and great just integrity to kind of his commitment to playing hard and all that stuff. So I think he's going to fit right into all the things that they want to do.
And Zuby.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like he's so strong. He's really, really. And I know people got me. Oh, we got that. He's like 6'7.5", 6'7". I don't know. I have to go look at the exact measurements, but Kevin O'Connor like ripping that pick was just made me. I just laughed. You know, um, but no, to me, it's like they learned a lesson against the Knicks that we got to have stronger players at the 4 and the 5. And he is really physical. I went back and watched, a good bit of St. John's too. It's like he's a good passer. He makes good decisions with the basketball. The 3-point shot needs a little bit of work in terms of like turning that into a real thing, but that could be a thing that they work on his rookie season. It'll be interesting to see where he is kind of depth wise, but I think it's going to be fun to watch him play in summer league as well. But he was a Big East Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. He's what some people are just considered to be the best player of the conference. I don't watch a lot of college basketball, so I don't know if that's true or not. But I do think that this just adding more physicality and someone who just plays like with a lot of effort, like all the time, his motor is like what really jumps out at you when you watch him play. I think that's what they need. Like it's a differentiator. Like Mo is like great switching, all that sort of stuff. But like against the Knicks, like it was hard to play him against the Knicks because OG is massive and Mitchell Robinson is massive, all that sort of stuff. So now they have another option, someone that can handle maybe that kind of physicality, maybe not in his rookie season, but as he develops to get to the point where he's a guy that's helping you take on a really physical team like the Knicks or the OKC or whoever else it might be.
I can't remember if I asked Tyler this question last time or not. Maybe I asked Brad. I don't know. I'm just going to throw it out there again because, just more recent developments to it. With them going and drafting in OGO for another power forward type player, do you think that changes anything about how they view keeping Jonathan Kuminga? What do you think, Tyler?
I think you asked me this last time, and I
Okay,
said
I probably
no.
did. I'm sorry. I'm old. I repeat myself.
I mean, if you want me to talk about it, we talked about it a little bit with Brad, but
Okay. Who?
I think that contract value for next year is a little higher than maybe I'm comfortable with. Hopefully, he and Kaminga's agent can kind of maybe find a 2 or 3 year deal, or the average annual value is a little bit lower than that. We talked about the fact that his athleticism is very helpful. What he can do in transition is very helpful, and we talked about the fact that he played on a bad knee, like basically the whole season last year and such. So my hope is that he would come back, but there's a real decision point around what does that do to Asa's playing time? Like, how do you prioritize Asa if that's the route you go? Does Kaminga play some three, along the way? It seems like the Trey Murphy thing didn't materialize for any team that was trying to kind of go get him. And I don't know if the Pelicans are still trying to make a move with him and Herb Jones. It's been reported and such. But it'll be interesting to see, and also Zach's minutes of playing time. It's like that's impacted as well. So, but I guess with a roster, you try to create good problems and where you have depth and you have choices you can make. And things like that. But for me, I'd love for Kaminga to be back, but I really believe in Asa Deal. I really believe in him. And I think next year he needs to be really kind of prioritized into that rotation, even if it's just a 16 to 18 minutes a night or whatever it is playing with the second unit. His offensive processing is really high level. And I thought his defensive technique got a lot. I mean, it was rough when he played center. We had to play center when Porzingis couldn't play. But once he was able to stop playing center, I thought his technique got a lot cleaner, kept his hands kind of back, didn't kind of have silly fouls and things like that. So I'm all in on Asa but how Ansi and Quinn and the rest of the coaches I feel about Asa has a lot to do with what is the role Kaminga has if he does come back. So there's a big kind of fork in the road there for them to decide what they want to do, prioritize.
But I will add with the Kaminga thing, like don't discount the fact that that contract is readily tradable come trade deadline. Him and CJ McCollum and Reese Shea as well. If you think about it, just three guys who are potentially on 1 or 1.5 year deals. So like I I could see Kaminga just being on the team primarily for the contract to be able to trade at the trade deadline again and see if we can figure something out. Just because there's there you know if they can't get a good deal for Kaminga, like there's no reason to just decline the option and then not bring him back. Or like that, like just to lose the talent for nothing. At least not right now, unless they have a deal in place that I don't know about, which they might. Buddy Hield is still on. Buddy Hield hasn't been waived yet, so there might be a trade happening. Kispert is still on the team. I mean, this roster is just in flux overall. Like
Yeah.
currently, like I said in the last spot, like Shea is not set to play any minutes. If this was a roster, he would play 0 minutes in October. Uh, and like that's interesting. Aaron Wiggins is, I guess the deal hasn't been officially approved because I didn't hear Auntie talk about it. But if it is,
It'll be a July
like
6th thing.
Yeah, I think they have to wait for that one.
July
yeah,
6th.
so yeah, but like that's a massive get. Like that's a top seven rotation player for this Hawks team. So, I think once we get more information, we'll have more to discuss overall with the direction of the Hawks. But I I'm of the opinion, I think Auntie said it best on 680 The Fan, where it's like the best players are going to play. You know, if Asa proves to be a better player, then he'll play over Kaminga, even if Kaminga's on the team. Uh, and like he'll have the opportunity to showcase that during preseason, during training camp. Like I think the Hawks are in a no nonsense mode of we want to win every game possible. We want to showcase that last year wasn't a fluke, and we want to really establish ourselves as one of the best teams in the NBA. Like not just the Eastern Conference, but just flat out in the NBA. Because I think they can do that as soon as next year, depending on the moves that they make. So I think it, to me, regardless of what they do in these next couple of games, I mean, next couple of months or days, like the best players are going to play. If Kingston Flemings turns out to be better than CJ McCollum halfway through the season, he'll just play over CJ McCollum, and CJ McCollum won't be on the team anymore. If that doesn't happen, he'll just be, he'll be a bench guy, or he might not play. He might be in the G League. He might not be strong enough, so he'll be in the G League for the majority of the season. Like we don't know. That's I think is the to me that's what I like about this Hawks team right now. It's like they 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 don't care about where guys were drafted, when they were drafted. They just want their pedigree with the team. Like if you produce, if you go out there, you show that you're good enough to get the minutes, to get the usage, to get the touches, then you'll get them. That's what Nickeil Alexander-Walker did. Like he took Trae Young's spot last year, and like if Trae Young get his spot taken, anybody on this roster can get their spot taken going forward, considering everything that Trae had done the last couple of seasons.
I talking after the press conference today, I asked Kingston Flemings if he was excited about, potentially the opportunity to play in two different summer leagues, and he goes, "I didn't know that there were two different summer leagues." But yeah, it's so close now. The I think the Hawks have games in Utah on the 3rd, the 5th, and the 6th, which coincidentally overlaps when France is playing their qualifying games for the next FIBA event, see watching Zach's social media, he's going to be playing for France at the same time that the summer leaguers are taking to Utah. But what I wanted to ask you for is who or what are you most excited to see in summer league, whether it be in Utah or Las Vegas this season?
I mean, we have to see the roster they put together. I mean, Ansi used the word stacked, so I don't know if he was kind of hinting at something there or not. But Brad and I oftentimes will do a summer league preview once the roster comes out. We'll see if the schedule allow. We've done it the last, I think, 3 years. We've done it, over there. So we might do one of that again. But yeah, I want to see who's on the roster and then do my due diligence and prepare for that and kind of talk it through. The team they had last year was a good team. They had a couple of injuries that popped and things like that. Talked about Kobe had some struggles here and there, last year in summer league and such. So we'll kind of see how that goes.
Tyler,
Who am I most interested in for the Hawks or just
who
in
or
general?
what? Yeah, yeah, for the Hawks. I'm sorry. Who or what?
Uh,
Trends,
I mean,
players,
it's got to
whatever.
be. I mean, the draft picks, and Asa Newell. I think those guys are the most interesting. Probably Asa more than anybody else. I want to see if they're going to put the ball in his hands a little bit more because that's what he did a lot in the G League. I wonder if he's going to carry that over here in the summer league. Uh, but other than that, it'll be interesting to see if they do anything different defensively here with the personnel that they have. Do they play bigger? How does Kingston look you know, compared to bigger size players now? And like how well does he defend when he's going to be like probably the weakest player on the floor, at least to start his career. So that'll be interesting to watch. But they should be a fun team, and I, I don't know. It should be fun to watch. I don't think Zach is going to be there. Just an aside, like I
No, he's
think
not going to
Zach's
be
going.
there. He's going to
Yeah,
be
he's not
playing
going
with
to be there.
France. Well, yeah, he's not going to be playing. But I wanted to say that I am excited to see Keyshawn Gilbert. I don't, you know, by the time that the Skyhawks really had incorporated him at the end of last season, the roster was kind of a mess. They'd gone through a long season with a lot of rotating parts, but I think he has something there in terms of just, like Ansi mentioned after the draft picks were made, like we needed advantage creation. We didn't have that, and that's what Kingston's going to give us. Well, I think Keyshawn is potentially a player who can do that. Like he has the handle, he has good size, but he's just really, really athletic. And I want to see if he has the ball in his hands a substantial amount this summer league, whether it be in Utah, maybe after they shut Kingston down after a few games, maybe it happens after that. But I'm very excited to see what he can do. He's also a really good defensive player, pressuring the ball out on the perimeter. So I'm excited to see that, and I'm excited to see how, like Tyler said, I'm excited to see how they use Asa. Like how does his role change? Is he getting the ball more? Are they putting him at power forward? Like who's playing center next to him? Like I want to see the way in which they deploy him because I think they're going to try to set him up to be part of the rotation this season. And when you get to summer league, it's a dress rehearsal. You don't want to use him in a different way in summer league than you're planning to use him uh, in the regular season, except for maybe trying to get him to stretch and expand a little bit. But all that is just foreshadowing for what they vision for him with the Hawks. So I just want to see that kind of style to what they're looking for in his game. Well, all right. It's exciting times. It's busy. We're going to get a little lull here before the beginning of summer league, but after that, like 2 weeks of Hawks basketball, it'll be on vapors by the time they get to the fifth or sixth game in Las Vegas, and they're
Sure.
down to their like 21st, 22nd, and 23rd players on the roster. But it's nice to have basketball in the summer, and then we can go on a long hiatus. And I appreciate you guys joining me midday uh, to get this one done.
Do we
Well,
know
I
who's
mean,
going to
we
coach?
got
Do we
we
know?
got
Do we know who's going to coach summer league?
I don't think we know that yet.
Okay.
and we got plenty of basketball. WNBA, man.
Oh
I
man,
know the
that
Dream
game
had a
last
tough
night.
game.
Oh my God. They couldn't make a three and just
Travel,
the
yeah,
screens were brutal. Like Golden
travel
State was
fatigue.
just teeing off on them. It was crazy.
It was a lot, and so like I expect a rebound, but that was a tough watch last night. But yeah, but if you're a fan of basketball, like check the Dream out. They've been great overall. I think they're one of the better teams in the W, and they're a fun watch. So that's my little plug for the day.
No, no, it's a good one, right? Like there are the WNBA contenders and the WNBA non-contenders, and like you don't see teams kind of transition from one to the other all that often, but it's like they're that close to making the leap.
No, I mean, to me, I think it's more they have the talent. Talent is all there. It's just do they have the mental makeup to do it? Just because the Liberty and the Aces in particular, like they've won, and like they're a bunch of they're older teams and they've won a lot, and like they are proven commodities come playoff time. So I think the Dream can get there. They have like I think they have as much talent as any team in the W, but it's just more about the mental makeup. Once the pressure is there, do they have enough? Like, do they have the experience now to kind of overcome some of some adversity? I think they do, but we'll see.
It's always a learning process. All right. Well, thank you. And I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to say good day, Bob, since it's still light out.
Yeah. Good day,
Hey, Bob.
Bob.
Good day, Bob.